We tend to think of civilization as a one-way road. Progress feels inevitable. We look at skyscrapers, fiber optic cables, and global supply chains and tell ourselves that this world is simply too big to fail. But history has already tested that belief. In the heart of modern Turkey lie the ruins of Hattusha. Gray limestone walls spill across a rocky plateau overlooking a bend in the Kızılyarmak River, exactly where they collapsed more than 3,000 years ago. Double fortifications, towered gates carved with lions. For centuries, this was the capital of the Hittite Empire, a Bronze Age superpower that controlled trade routes, diplomacy, and armies across the ancient world. Yet when archaeologists dig beneath the fallen stones, they find something unsettling. A thin black layer resting directly above the ancient floors. Ash, charred wood, melted brick. The remains of a fire so violent that the city was never rebuilt. After that moment, the story stops. Hattusha was abandoned for centuries, left silent and empty. And Hattusha was not alone. Across more than 1,000 kilometers of the eastern Mediterranean, archaeologists find the same signature of destruction, dating to roughly the same moment around 1200 BC. Cities burned, palaces collapsed, writing systems vanished, trade routes went quiet, entire civilizations disappeared from the historical record. This was not a slow decline. It was a system-wide failure. This was the late Bronze Age collapse. Before the fall, the world had reached something extraordinary, its first true globalization. Egypt, the Hittite Empire, Mycenaean Greece, and coastal cities like Ugarit were bound together by dense networks of trade and diplomacy. Kings addressed one another as brother. Specialists moved between courts. Grain, metals, textiles, and luxury goods flowed across seas and deserts in a tightly woven economic web. We know this world existed because one ship sank. Off the coast of Turkey lies the Uluburun shipwreck, dated to around 1300 BC. Inside its cargo hold were tons of copper and a smaller but critical quantity of tin, along with glass, ivory, exotic woods, resins, spices, and luxury objects from multiple regions. One ship, many cultures. An ancient container vessel, proving how interconnected this world had become. That interconnection created prosperity, but it also concealed a fatal weakness.
Bronze was the foundation of the age. It plowed fields, armed soldiers, and built states. But bronze depended on tin, and tin was rare. It had to be transported over immense distances along fragile routes. If trade failed, bronze production failed. If bronze failed, tools could not be replaced. Fields went unplowed. Weapons went dull. Civilization itself stalled. Then the pressure began to build. Climate stress appears to have struck first. Evidence suggests prolonged drought across parts of the region. Harvests failed. Grain shipments slowed. Hunger spread. When Egypt's Nile floods weakened, the shock rippled outward to every society that depended on its surplus.
Next came physical destruction. Earthquakes and violent upheavals that shattered already strained cities. Trade routes grew dangerous. Caravans were attacked. Ships avoided ports. The system began to seize. And when the great powers were hungry, distracted, and brittle, sails appeared on the horizon. Egyptian records speak of groups later called the Sea Peoples. Not a single nation, but a loose coalition of displaced communities, Refugees, raiders, mercenaries, pushed by famine, collapse, and desperation. Entire families moved by ship in search of land and food. Wherever they landed, cities burned.
We can feel the terror of this moment in a final letter from Ugarit. Its king wrote desperately to Cyprus. Enemy ships had arrived, cities were burning, help was needed. The letter was never sent. The city fell before the clay even cooled in the kiln. Hattusha, far from the sea, burned and was abandoned. Alliances failed because everyone was under attack at once. Even Egypt barely survived.
Under Ramesses III, Egypt ambushed the sea peoples in the Nile Delta, archers on the banks, infantry hidden in reeds, ships dragged close with grappling hooks. Egypt repelled the invasion, but victory came at a heavy cost. Trade collapsed, wealth drained away. Within decades, food shortages, corruption, and unrest spread. Egypt endured, but its empire was broken. After the collapse, silence fell across the region. Long-distance trade vanished, cities emptied, populations declined. Survivors retreated into small fortified villages. Writing disappeared in many places because there was no longer a centralized system that required records. But collapse also forced reinvention.
Bronze required global trade. Iron did not. Iron ore was widespread, and once people learned to work it, smaller societies could arm themselves without imperial supply chains. Power shifted away from palace monopolies toward more flexible states. From the ashes of the Bronze Age, the Iron Age emerged. The collapse was not caused by a single villain, it was a cascade. Climate stress weakened food systems. Trade breakdown removed critical resources. Migration and conflict multiplied instability. When enough buffers disappeared, even the most sophisticated system failed. And that is the warning this ancient world leaves behind.
The people of the late Bronze Age were not primitive. They were globalized, interconnected, and confident that their system would protect them. They believed the good times would last. We live in a similar web today. Energy grids, shipping lanes, semiconductor supply chains, fragile alliances, and a changing climate. We have better technology than the Hittites and more data than the Mycenaeans. But are we more resilient? History does not repeat itself exactly, but it does rhyme. And it reminds us of something uncomfortable. Complexity is powerful, but fragile. When shocks synchronize, even civilizations that seem too big to fail can collapse within a single generation.